Hey everybody, welcome back. I know it's crazy. It's another Monday. We're recording on a Monday. That's why this is going to get out late, but it works. I got a lot to talk about. Jordan's got a little bit to talk about. I want to
Um,
basically share a lot about ChatGPT, most of the headlines. But yeah, Jordan, you want to go first, or do you want to
I have
say
AI
anything?
Monday
Oh my
stickers. Okay,
gosh,
usually I
we have
don't have a lot
stickers
to
too.
talk about. We have official merch. That makes us a real thing.
How do we get listeners stickers? I mean, most of them probably know us in person, but if they don't, do they
If
like
you
just
don't
comment your
follow,
address and
we'll
don't
send
do
to
that.
you. Um, Everyone who has seen this knows us. So
We should find a way to make those buyable or at least get them to people. That'd be kind of fun. Our first like 100 subscribers get a sticker, you know? I guess I'd be
yeah.
several of those, but other than three, other than I'd get a lot of stickers. It works.
It
Create a
works.
lot of create a lot of email accounts and subscribe to us 10 times. You'll get 10 stickers. See, it's like a bargain.
It's not black hat SEO at all.
Not at all. Sounds good.
Anyway, sorry. Yes, I got stickers. And then the other thing that I was looking at when I was looking through stuff was apparently some guy needed to represent himself in court. He didn't have a lawyer. And so what he ended up doing was he generated through AI a video of this nice polished guy talking through his defense. But he didn't tell the judge that that's what that was. So he was just like, oh, yeah, I've got my video for my defense. And they starts playing it. And it's this clearly AI guy. And the judge got like mad. Yelled to them to shut it off and then said, why didn't you tell us that this was AI generated? Like, what is this? And the guy, I mean, I kind of get it because he explained afterwards, he's just like, I stumble and I don't have the most polished speech, just like me, literally right now. And he was like, so I wanted to avoid saying anything awkwardly. I just wanted it to be smooth. So I generated this video of this not real person delivering it for me. So
Hmm.
I kind of get it, but it was another one of those awkward examples of AI use in the courtroom and people being really defensive or just like, oh, I think this is okay, or just anyway, yeah. So that was kind
I
of
think
an interesting one.
I think people are a little too defensive. I also don't think that was. I think he should have at least notified in advance. So
Yeah, probably should have let
I
him
think
know.
he was in the wrong for that
Yeah.
one. But as far as like the judge getting super angry or something, I was like, well, okay, chill. You can dismiss it, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think warning them would have been good, but I also kind of get it. Like if you want to
Hmm.
say things in the exact way and you're worried about getting nervous or something.
Have you
Um,
noticed that I stutter a lot less on our podcast? It's actually all pre-recorded.
but
I just
okay.
know exactly what you're going to say through AI, predictions, and then
Okay,
I
sure.
have pre-recorded responses.
Okay, sure. So basically you've just I mean, it just took the first few episodes to get enough information on how I respond to everything.
Yeah, so
That,
you like tell, bring up some super random topic that I would
oh,
not,
I hate Swedish fish. I think they're disgusting.
I love Swedish fish. See what I'm
Wow, that's
saying?
good.
Yeah,
Wow. Wow,
exactly.
that's good.
I
Okay,
know.
okay. It's like you're in my head. That's wild.
I know. It's
This is a
insane.
dumb conversation. What do you have to
Should I
share?
get to yeah. Well, I got the ChatGPT subscription, the Plus subscription, just got it back. I took a month off. Honestly, it's way updated. So obviously the pictures is the coolest part. The, ability to make comics of your friends in any scenario. My friend will just be like, I don't want to do this. And I'll be like, you should do this. And then I'll just go over to ChatGPT and I'll find a picture of that friend and I'll make a whole comic about our conversation that just happened. And it's so much fun because it's happy. The way that it animates is so happy. So I like animating. It makes everything more lighthearted. And then on top of that, it builds really good wallpapers. And so I've been using it along with Canva's expand
Like you mean like phone wallpapers.
phone or laptop.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, because like for instance, it would make like a square and it's high quality, but I make it of something like Invincible to show Invincible, and then I go to Canva and I want it to be a bit more landscape, so it fits perfectly on my desktop, and so then I use the AI expand feature and it expands out the edges, and it usually works pretty well. So then I can have, and then I can download it in 4K or something, so it's high quality, and so no, it's actually it's pretty cool for all kinds of yes device wallpapers. And then yeah, otherwise I noticed some changes in the tone. It's a bit more friendly, a bit a bit more natural, I guess, and feels like it was a little, I don't know, it felt like it was less biased. I feel like this is all in my head, but when I moved from ChatGPT to Grok, Grok felt so unbiased. Like it would actually just give me the facts and it wouldn't have any sort of subtle messaging or super restrictive, I can't talk about that, I can't tell you that, and Grok will just tell you. Even if at the end it gives a disclaimer about like I'm not an expert. But then it honestly felt like by the end of using Grok that it was being a little more biased and opinionated, and I don't know, it was maybe I was
And
just
how you
trying to argue
framed
with
it,
it
was
more,
that just
but it feels like if you try to argue with Grok, it'll argue back, whereas other ones will just be like, "Oh, my mistake," and then move on with
yeah.
a different thing, and Grok will be like, "No, no, no, I was in the right," and I'm like, "You're not though," and so I
Huh.
don't know. I had some problems with it, and ChatGPT now feels a lot more helpful and unbiased. So maybe it's just me, but personal experience, I've been enjoying using that for sure. Honestly, the past
Something that I
week.
do for multiple people is making graphics, not just like pictures, but like graphics for invites, for events, for collateral. And it sounds like we're also getting closer to that being easy, ChatGPT, like they're getting
Hmm.
close to actually, I mean, you're talking about the comic strips, those have words on them and they're putting the words in
Yeah.
the right order and it makes sense and it's, saying something that it generated. You didn't put in those words necessarily. So that's really interesting to me because it's not just like, can I make myself into a cartoon character for, different avatars or something, but it's also real design stuff that
Hmm.
used to take a long time can now be very, very quick. I mean, I was talking to Dad about how you can put in your colors and you can put in things about your brand that you want it to follow, and then it can just generate collateral for you. So I think
Yeah.
that's where I need to play with it a lot more right now. It just because that still is something that I haven't
Messed
I
around with.
it wasn't good enough when I tried it before. It
Sure.
didn't, it was all gibberish, but now I need to get in
Yeah.
there and yeah.
I wonder if in the custom instructions, if there'll end up being a feature, or maybe it's not ChatGPT, maybe it's Canva, but something where there's basically a custom instruction of here's my brand, here's my fonts, here's how our tone maybe, here's a couple
Totally.
past examples of things we have, and then it can create content using that. That'd be pretty cool.
Totally. Yeah, just like
Hmm.
Canva. You make your little brand kit.
Yeah, this is a silly mention, a little note, but I was drawing and I drew this little creature and I gave it a little more detail and I wondered if it was detailed enough for ChatGPT to turn it into a cartoon or I guess a realistic creature. And so I did, and it was just taking a picture of it, and then I'm like, make this photo realistic, make it sitting on a little stump outside, and it did. But it was honestly a lot of fun, and so that's kind of another recommendation is that like if you have cool drawings, I don't know, there's IP attached or there's you can't necessarily create another Batman or something. ChatGPT has some limitations of trying not to break copyright stuff. But
Sure, sure.
that being said, if it's any sort of original character, it's pretty fun to be like, oh, here's this character that I drew or I created, and then you give it to ChatGPT and it can, generate it in all sorts of different styles and animations. And I think it's just a fun use of the tool that I've done as well. So,
So yeah, like you can turn your artwork into things. You can do really cool stuff for brands. You can do actual serious, business useful
mhm.
things. But also you can turn yourself into cartoon characters. So just I just I just made this.
Wow.
Yeah. It's kind of disturbing, actually.
Why am I Bluey?
I don't know. I
I
just
want to be
said
the other
turn,
one.
I just said turn us into Bluey characters. You want to be Bingo?
Yeah.
I
Oh
said
well.
turn us into Bluey characters.
I love it though. I mean, it got like the posters right, the globe, the
And it was
mic.
like pretty close and it let me do Bluey, It wasn't like, oh no, we can't
Yeah.
use that. It's already
Yeah.
good. So it's pretty funny, but yes,
Hmm.
that's the real, sorry. Yes, I just
So
had to
on
try.
your screen, you have our. Oh, I see. When you're taking a screenshot, I showed our names. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. My screen shows our names. But
Cool. Yeah. No fun. Speaking of ChatGPT, do you know of? I mean, you do because I mentioned it before this meeting. But do you know of the Turing test?
well, I did already before you mentioned it
Oh,
because it was in the
no. Yeah.
song.
But now you know. Now that I told you.
I didn't know
Um,
what it was, but yeah.
Yes, but yes, basically it's a test that was proposed by a British mathematician in 1950, and he wanted to compare machines to humans and figure out if machines could think. And so he came up with this test he called the imitation game. And basically, what it was three participants, one human who's going to evaluate one human responder and one machine. And the human evaluator would talk to the human and the machine, but wouldn't know which is which, and would try to guess which one is the machine. And back in 1950, this is a very futuristic idea. And so it's not really something practical, but it was an idea to think about or study or whatever. Now we have AI, and so they've actually been running AI models through this type of test, and sounds like even 3.5 and 4 ChatGPTs were run through it, but they had like a maybe 50-50 chance of identifying the robot, which is kind of just hit or miss, I guess. It
Yeah.
still seems impressive, but sounds like 4.5, they did a new study. It was by researchers of UC San Diego, and they conducted a new investigation where they had the three-party system of the machine and the person, and then the person talking to both and doesn't know which is which. And in 73% of the time, the machine was identified as human, which is pretty crazy. It's also funny to think about because it's like if you're comparing two, you know, then you'd think that the human would still sound more human,
Yeah, it's
but
not just the one
you
on
know,
its own. You're like, oh,
yeah,
that sounds human. Yeah.
exactly. If you just talk to a machine,
Huh.
you're like, is this human or not? I don't know. Maybe it is human. But when they're even comparing, it sounds natural. So there was a couple things like there was a persona prompt. So they specifically told it to speak like, or adopt a human-like persona. And so it
Sure.
was trying to speak like a human, and without it, the success dropped to 36%. So it needed that prompt of act like a human, otherwise it doesn't try to act like a human. But still, when it was given the prompts to try to be like a human and then uh, talk like one, then it got it with a 73% success rate. So cool. Critics argue that passing it doesn't mean that it thinks like a human. It just means that it's better at mimicking, which is
Sure.
honestly fair because I think that'll be all it ever it is. It just is trained on humans. I think there's something to humans that even if you weren't around humans all the time, you'd still act like a human, you know? And a machine wouldn't. But at the same time, I think that, to a certain extent, you learn from the environment around you. So it's kind of the same as us. But yeah, no, I thought that was interesting. I thought it was just another kind of milestone that people were waiting for to see if it could compare to humans. And that's another big one of just sounding like a human, not even its like intelligence. So that
Hmm.
was pretty cool. Have you heard of Gamma.app?
Yes.
Oh, have you used it?
I don't remember. I was in the
But you
midst
know
of
what it
it.
does.
No, I don't remember. Too many names of different AIs.
I know, I know. This is the presentation one, which at this point now can create social media and website landing pages and all sorts of other
Nice.
things. But
Yeah. You tell me what I'm
basically,
talking about.
yeah. So our dad heard from his dad about this, and the story goes, hopefully he doesn't listen to this podcast. No, it's fine. I guess
So,
he used it, and long story short, he asked an AI model for what moats would be what the moats would be for his company. Basically, what do we need to set up so that competitors can't just immediately take over this part of our business or even just pass
mhm.
us up? Like what would be good moats? Because AI landscape changes things. And so he got a bullet point list of here's a bunch of good moats. And then he copied it, maybe without even looking at it, and put it into Gamma, and then said, "Hey, create a presentation on this." And then got the presentation, and maybe didn't even look at it, and then opened it for the first time in the team meeting and was like, "So we're going to talk about the moats," and then just started walking through it. But it looked great, and so I was like, "Okay, I
Oh,
want to use
this
this."
whole time I'm expecting some disaster.
No,
Like,
no,
you
it
look at it
sounds like
like
it
I'm
was
gonna.
great, and they just talked through it. So I tried it.
Nice.
First, I tried it with space, and then I asked Olivia about it. She wanted it to describe a certain, basically like style of clothing, and create a presentation off of that. And then I did it for one of my clients. But yeah, it's great. So I would go over to ChatGPT, and I'd be like, okay, hey, what are current threats and tactics in the IT world? And it'd be like, here's 8 of them, and I'd be like, cool. And then I put that into, and you don't even have to do that. You can just go to Gamma and be like, hey, create an IT presentation. But I'd go over it and put it in there, and then you can specify like what the style is, and light or dark theme. You can change how many pages it is credits, but you get a lot for free, so it's free for a while. And then yeah, when I hit like generate though, it was speedy. Like you'd open up the page and it's like, oh, image it goes there, and then text, 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 next page, and then image goes here, and then the text and the like graphics here, and then image, and and it just go through, and then the images would load slower as it goes, but then you can scroll back up, and everything's AI generated, but you can also change that feature if you want it to be like, if you want it to look for photos it can find on Photoshop or Google or um, just wherever it can get images, or if you want to change it so that each image is somewhere something that you can upload an image to. So you can change that, but I just had to do AI images because it was pretty cool. But yeah, no, and it just whips out a presentation that's like ready to go and looks honestly really good. So my main critique is trying to edit it afterwards is hard. They
Yeah.
make it so that every single text box is editable. You can change the graphics, you can change the image, you can go into the image and say, I want to make this one of my own images, and you can also just say, you can change the prompt that was used to create the image and recreate it with AI. And so it's very editable, except for when you're trying to like add things. If you're like, wait, I didn't want the speaker thing there, I wanted it over here, I wanted to change the text over there. It's not a drag and drop like Canva. It's, boxes of where you can place items. And so it gets a little tricky to edit when you want to edit it. But if it's for a quick thing, if you're like, hey, I want to set up a presentation for my, quick work meeting just to show off my statistics, here's what I did this week. And then it puts it in a little document of 4-page presentation or something, probably would look great and would work out well. So I do recommend that. I don't think it necessarily is for big webinar presentations yet, something that you're trying to show off, unless you have enough information in the initial prompt. But it looks like it works pretty cool. I didn't test out its other features yet, but yeah, it had the ability, I guess, to also create social media and landing pages and other things. So
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, I know I'd heard of it. I just logged in and there's a security risk uh presentation sitting there from
Oh,
the first
nice. Yeah, there you
time I
go.
checked it out. But yeah, I'm
Yeah,
trying to figure out if it can help me make a game for a youth group. We'll see.
maybe. Yeah, I don't know,
Yeah.
but I thought that was pretty cool. That's kind of it. Mostly the ChatGPT stuff has been what I've been using and learning. So, but
Cool.
on the tiniest other note, XAI acquired X, which is
Oh,
just
fun.
because like, X doesn't isn't able to raise as much money. So under XAI it can raise money
But
easier
the
and
clickbait
keep it.
titles. Elon
What?
Musk sold X. I said, but the clickbait titles.
I know, yeah. Yeah.
Titles are so good. My goodness.
I
Gamma
do think
is,
it's funny.
that's funny.
Mm.
We'll
I
get
feel
there. I
like
just think they're prompting.
I feel like if I feel like if it would make more sense if X acquired XAI because it's like X now has the grok part of it and it's under X. But I think it's funny that XAI acquired X.
I don't know.
Anyway,
Well,
cool.
cool. The updates. Um, yeah, everything's just getting better.
Yeah, no, it really. I know the images and the presentations and stuff. It does feel like the time for people who were kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting for these things to become
Oh
not
yeah.
actually useful, but kind of actually useful, where they can really just ask for something and get what they want. And we're getting to that stage now. So
If you
it's
work
pretty
in
cool.
marketing and designing collateral and stuff, it's the time to learn how to do it faster and learn some other stuff.
Yeah,
'Cause,
yeah. And I'm
yeah.
like, you won't be replaced if you have 20 clients and you're doing an hour of work for each of them because it takes an hour now to do 8 hours of work.
Oh yeah.
So
If that.
yeah, yeah,
Cool. All right.
yep.
Well, thank you, listeners.
Mm-hmm.
We made it. It's still
Yeah,
nothing.
I know. I'll get this edited.
All right.
Cool.
Peace.
Peace.